Hello, I'm Clay with Expedition Overland, and today I'm with Ryan with RedArc, and we're going to be talking about the basics of 12-volt systems and understanding power systems and how it incorporates into camping and the overland lifestyle and running your trucks and your refrigerators and all that stuff at a basic level.
You want to get off grid. Everybody wants to go out. Everybody loves camping, and especially now, today, people want to go farther, get away from the crowds, because all the popular off-road spots are now crowded by hundreds and maybe thousands of people that weren't there last year.
Yeah.
So people are going even farther. They're delving in deeper into the wild per se. So with that, you're going to have even more necessity to manage those power sources, because the farther out you go, there's no one there to save you when you run out of power.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing for us is people ask, well, when we get off grid, what do I need? What are some basic necessities to run my standard accessories that they feel as creature comforts that they need out there? Enable to power the fridges, your accessories like lights and compressors, especially if you're going off-roading. In the meantime, even when camping, you're going to be airing down, things like that. So a nice compressor is going to definitely use up some power. So how does RedArc fit into that? And what we do is we specialize in power management to make sure you guys are aware at all times what your battery levels really are at. So you're not surprised when you go to roll that car over the next day to move or to just power something on because your lights are off, and you're shocked that your batteries are dead. So for the very basics, what you can do is to get out there farther for longer, you can add another battery. Seems simple. But all that's going to do is get you maybe a day, maybe two, depending on your usage. So again, you're right back into that same position. So then you're like, well, I'll just tie the two batteries together. It should give me double the battery. Well, what that's going to do is you're going to just deplete your start battery as well if you're not paying attention. So then you're back to square one with two dead batteries and an even harder time to get them both going.
Sure.
So what do you go from there?
Solar or generator?
Absolutely. But when you have solar or generator, how are you going to manage all of those things? So with RedArc, we took it to the next step further, and our most basic dual battery setup is going to be a battery isolator. It's making sure that no matter what, you can deplete that auxiliary battery without even having to consider the fact of worrying about that start battery. What's from there? I have a dead auxiliary battery. How do I prevent that from happening?
Yep.
And you can look into our premium options for like our Manager 30s, our BC-DCs, and even our Red Vision systems for the high-tiered guys that are wanting to get out there for extreme extended periods into the wilderness as well. The next tier is going to be our BC-DCs, and what that is, it's a DC to DC battery charger. So it's going to take and register and manage that auxiliary battery to make sure that anything less than an optimum voltage going into that secondary battery is going to be pumped up to at least maintain, but to ensure that it is charging, so that way if you continue to keep wearing down that battery, you're not just slowly delaying the death of that battery.
Yeah.
You're at least maintaining and increasing the voltage into that to make sure you can turn on any lights, any of your accessories, and you're not having to configure out which ones can I live without because I ran the fridge, or I opened the fridge too many times, or I ran the compressor too long.
We found in Expedition Overland, when we went to RedArc Systems and used the voltage boost that like BC-DCs provide to actually make sure that the voltage going into that secondary battery is premium.
So with the BC-DCs, you're going to allow yourself to maintain that battery a lot longer, and the longevity, like you said, the life of it, and you're not having to buy those new batteries every other year or every 3 years like you used to.
The BC-12, 12 volt, 30 or 25, a 40 and a 50, is that correct?
And we just actually came out with the 1212T, which is the 12 amp. So the amperage itself is what it's going to be putting back into that battery system. So like I said, how it boosts anything for the 12 volt system, it's also going to give that battery some amperage as well. So your fridges, your compressors, they all draw power, and that's rated in amperage. So that's going to be the life of that battery that it has. So the standard battery can be anywhere, we'll use 100 amp hours. So if you use 40 amp hours in a day, which is pretty excessive, but you want to be able to replenish that. The BC-DCs are Manager 30s. Those put those amp hours back into the battery, and that number is the rating of the hour itself, the amp hours itself. So 25 amp hours will get you If it's 100, you can drop it from 0 to 100 in 4 hours in premium conditions.
Okay.
With our Manager 30s and our Red Visions, it's going to offer, we have our premium displays that'll come with it, and it's going to be able to, once you select your profile for your batteries, you're going to go through, it's going to charge up to 100%, and then it's going to be able to calculate the actual time between hours, days, what have you, that you have to empty, is what I like to say. That's when you have zero power left. So you'll know pretty precisely how much you have left. So if you're getting down to the hours, the minutes, you can start cutting things off. So that way you can extend that life period for you to be out in the wild. Otherwise, you have to either A, turn your vehicle back on, or luckily if you're going to be driving to the next place in the next day or two, you can expect to gain a little bit more power, or if you have solar, you can extend it a little bit more as well.
So we found with Expedition Overland, when we started running the Manager 30s and we had that monitor, at this current load, like the fridge is running and our 2 camp lights are on and whatever, you have 18 hours until this battery is going to run flat, or 6 hours. That's what the Manager 30s and the Red Visions get you into.
Absolutely.
So cool, you know that you need batteries, but how much battery do I need? How much power do I need? I ask that question when we're building trucks.
Yeah.
Everybody should be asking that question. What's the answer to that?
The biggest thing for me, what's helped me the most, is all the items that I know I want to run, they all come with user manuals. And inside those user manuals, they're going to tell you exactly their power draw. And there's calculators online. My biggest thing is I take down a full list of everything that I'm going to use. And I go on and find all the power draw from it. And what I do with that is there's calculators, like I said, online, so you can compile all that into it, and it's going to give you an amp hour rating for that you're going to be using.
Yep.
So the best thing for that is you take that number and you put it on what you expect to be is your worst day, the most usage that you can have. Like refrigerators, it's 100 degrees outside, and that compressor in that refrigerator is going to kick on. Well, say that compressor, every time it kicks on, it's 4 amps.
Yep.
So if you expect to kick on 10 times in a day, 40 amps, which is excessive, I know, you have to calculate into the factor, well, if it's 40 amps and that's just the refrigerator, but I want to run a compressor and I want to run my inverter, well, I'm going to need a larger than 100 amp hour battery to just maintain what I'm using then. So you really have to take all of that into consideration, what you want to use, what it draws, how many times are you going to use it, on the worst day, what it's going to draw. And I use that as that way on your best day, you don't even have to even worry about it. But even on your worst day, you're still within that limits and you're fine.
Now, if we need more than that, we have the ability to hopefully supplement power through solar, or we got to run the truck. Which isn't ideal, especially if you're way out there and like some of your guys' adventures, you don't know whether that fuel station, like your Arctic adventures, like you guys were saying, those fuel stations might be closed seasonally. So you want to make sure that using that vehicle to power your rig or whatever you're doing for the day is the last resort. And so that's why he said incorporating that extra 10, 20, 30% is going to save you a lot in the long run. So the next question is, okay, we figured out how much power we want in our battery systems, but how do I know what charger to get now?
The BCDC is going to generally have a number after it, a 12 followed by a 2-digit number, and that 2-digit number is going to be the amp hours. So if you're depleting your 100 amp hour battery and you figure you need 25 or 50 amps to charge that, depending on how fast you're depleting it and how fast you want to build it back up. You have short drives, you only had a limited time, you want to go with the higher number if your alternator in your vehicle can support it. So if you went with the BCDC 1250, that would give you 50 amp hours per hour of the BCDC on. So if you depleted 50 hours of your 100 amp hour battery, you could essentially charge that battery in 1 hour with the 50 amp hour charger.
Which is incredible.
Yeah, that's a little excessive.
Yeah.
Say you went with a 1225D, which is our bread and butter. That's our most popular BCDC. To fill that 50 amp hour gap in your 100 amp hour battery, it would take 2 hours of running the BCDC 1225 to fill it. So that's a major thing to take away is how long do I have to charge? How frequently am I turning my vehicle on? How frequently am I driving it? And you can always add more power, but there's also limitations with the vehicle itself. Can my vehicle and my alternator and my power system support 50 amps at a time without overdoing it?
How do I know that my alternator's equipped for it?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you have a stock factory alternator, look in the vehicle manual, look online, say your alternator is 100 amp hour output. Generally, good rule of thumb is about half of that alternator output is essentially for the vehicle itself in order to run. So
Yeah, to keep the engine running
Yep,
and all that,
absolutely.
yeah.
So you got to take away 50 amps right there. So you have 50 amp hours, give or take, to support the rest of the vehicle and your accessories.
Okay.
So a 1250 BC/DC is kind of on the edge there. You're really pushing the limit on it. So
what
you
it
might
can actually.
yeah,
'cause
because
it's
what it can
asking of
support.
that much
Yep,
power,
it's going to
right?
be drawing a lot of
Yeah.
power from the vehicle. So you might experience some unquality things with the vehicle's electronic system in that aspect too. But the biggest thing, you could scale it back a little bit, go to the 1240D,
Yeah.
and if you really don't need the power, you're not depleting that power, it's the safest bet to just go with the 1225.
Yeah.
Because it's just a clean, slow, good charge the whole time.
Sweet. But I'm running my Ram and I've got 2 alternators in it. Not a problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Pack as much in there as the batteries can take within the system limitations that you have. Throw as much at it as you want. Everything generally post 2007, 2008, that range, and newer is going to have a variable voltage alternator, a smart alternator, we like to say. What that does is that really monitors that start battery system, and once it recognizes that start battery is topped off perfectly good, it cuts everything off. Especially for emissions, they don't want it running longer than it has to. So what we do with the BC/DC is it tells it, hey, we know the start battery is good because we monitor it. We want you to stay on though because you still need to support
Right.
the BC/DC or the Manager 30 to maintain and support this battery, the auxiliary batteries, so it can maintain and charge it. So that's why with the smart alternator we have, if you watch your installation manual, or if you look at your installation manual, you just have to hook up an additional wire to basically bypass that and say, hey, we still need you on to support us.
Yeah, that's really critical.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that or would run past that. There's other old school ways of tricking a fuse or
Yeah.
voltage and things like that. BC/DCs, your systems, negate all that, plug it in, it works. What about solar? How does that work? Because we're pulling from the alternator, we're driving down the road, we're charging things up, we get to camp, or we're still driving down the road, and we have solar panels because we want to supplement power. How does that all work?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you have solar panels on your rig or on your trailer, what have you, and you have a BC/DC or a Manager 30, we have what we call our Green Power Priority, and they are MPPT solar regulator. And what that does is while you're driving or while you're sitting still, you can pull power from that solar power. And on a panel, just throwing it out there, if it's an average 100 watt solar panel, you can expect about 6 amps per hour per solar panel. So that's a pretty safe guesstimate.
When it's running at
yeah.
100.
Yeah, when it's in pure sun, great, no clouds in the sky. So you have to really factor that in. Well, I have solar, so I can assume 6 amp hours per hour. That's not the case. It's only for a very short, limited window throughout the day, especially. It's about 1 to 3 hours of the day at most, if you're lucky. Us in the Northwest, we're lucky to see the sun, so
Yeah.
as you know. So what it does is with the Green Power Priority, it's going to take any power that the solar panel gets and prioritize that first into that auxiliary battery before it puts any strain on the BC/DC or the Manager 30. So the BC/DC or Management 30, those battery chargers are going to supplement power only for what the solar panels can't fill in the first place.
Right.
So if you have 2 panels and you're putting maximum power from the solar, it's 12 amps, and you're needing 25 or 30 amp hours, it's going to fill that gap in the difference between the 25 and 30 from the 12.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
With our fleet trucks with Expedition Overland, we have dedicated overland vehicles, and we use the Manager 30s in almost all of those vehicles. Like anything with a P-Core tray bed in the back for the Manager 30, we roll in and we plug it in.
Yeah.
Shore power. It's been one of the best things ever about having the Manager 30 system.
Absolutely.
Talk about shore power for a second.
Yeah, shore power is huge. So
What is shore power?
shore power 110, it's the wall plug at your house. It's the wall plug in your garage that you run an extension cable from. So what the benefit of that, especially with the Manager 30, it does have not only being a DC to DC charger or solar regulator, it has shore power attached to it. So that allows you to plug it in at home or plug it in at the campground. What that allows you to do is top off those batteries without having to rely on the vehicle itself. So you can make sure everything's topped off, tip shape, before you take off on the road for your adventure out in the wilderness, if you catch a campground, or just making sure you're leaving the house.
Yeah, cool. So now we've got our batteries, we've got our battery management systems, we've got solar, but now we want to start adding systems to it, like powered systems, switches,
Yeah,
monitoring things, even advanced things, water tanks, you name it. Red Vision has come out.
absolutely.
TVMS, Total Vehicle Management System, and it's been a game changer for like Patriot campers. I put one in my 4-wheel camper just recently, wired everything to this one system. It manages my batteries, and it becomes my switch panel. I have it on my phone.
Yep.
Tell us about Red Vision.
Yeah, like you said, it's the total vehicle management system. So you already have the charging down, but you have all these accessories connected to 3 different switch panels because there's just too many of them.
Yep.
So what we did is we took all of our charging systems, which you can get in a kit with the Red Vision, and all of these accessories that you're running anyway, well, why don't you want them to talk to your power management system?
Right.
So that's what we did. We made it the total vehicle manager. So with the Red Vision, it's going to come with a color display. And when this is color display, it's going to give you the ability to not only monitor your power management, it's going to give you control of up to 10 accessories. In addition, it'll come with some 2 digital inputs as well. So if you want to view temperature in your cooler, ambient temperature inside, temperature outside, you can access those as well. And like you said, with the app, you can be sitting at the campfire and you want to fire up the heater in the camper, turn it on from there. You don't have to get up, and it's nice and toasty when you get to bed.
So where else can people learn about RedArc and possibly more about 12-volt systems and everything? Where should they go?
Well, if you watch YouTube at all and seen some X-Overland, you've probably seen our products with them. They have some great videos, but aside from that, we also put out a lot of great content. We have a lot of brand ambassadors as well that also put out a lot of great content. So go to RedArc's YouTube channel. We have a ton of install videos. We have a ton of videos that just walk you through the product. All the Australian guys are just great content creators. So if you want to learn more there, or if you like just reading about it, we have a ton of information on our website as well. So go to, if you're in the US, redarcelectronics.com. If you're in Australia, redarc.com.au.
Yeah, right on. Well, thank you for being such a wealth of knowledge. I learned some stuff today, and putting the power of RedArc in our systems has really changed our trucks.
Yeah,
so thank you.
absolutely.
Thanks for such a great
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
You bet.